with CSR is because you have to have the quota in order to win the job. People are actually delivering on some of the diversity aspects or in kind of community support and engagement and things like that. So although it's not authentic, it does create a positive outcome, and it's kind of the old you fake it till you make it. If you keep doing it often enough, people, that becomes their normal, and actually the next generation of people who come through, it might be an authentic feeling and not a box ticking exercise.
Got to start somewhere. Let's have some questions, please. That was very quick there. Can I have a microphone at the front, please? And can I have one over there straight after, please, Zach? Can I have your name and organisation, please?
Okay, my name is Lolette Hudson. I'm the CEO and founder of One Hand Car Club. It's a leadership development company.
Very good, thank you.
Steph, I have a question for you because I'm a bit confused. What is a BD girl?
So business development in construction is kind of a role which generally women will take on because they're nicer to talk to be honest. And you send them out to networking events and they talk to all the boring old men and they win them over and then they give us the contracts. In terms of the reality of what it is, it's a bit more than that, but that's kind of the perception when I say a BD girl is just someone pretty they put in front of a crowd to get the work.
And how does that make you feel being called a BD girl?
Well, at least they said pretty.
It's true, actually. I'd say, yeah, you've got to take the positives. It's disrespectful, is what it is. But you've just kind of got to let it go. You can't. People have their own kind of perceptions and their constructs that they've brought within their whole lives, their whole prejudices, and you can't expect everyone to have the same opinion as you. So you just have to accept sometimes that people might have an opinion you don't agree with, which you think is fundamentally wrong, and maybe other people think is fundamentally wrong. But does that mean you shouldn't interact with that person at all? Because maybe you'll learn something from them. Generally, people who've got really strong opinions, even if they're complete opposite to you, there's a reason they've got it, and sometimes you can find actually a connection in the fundamentals.
Very good, very good. Please.
Prosper Williams, Cass Business School and Barclays Bank. Many teams that come together that are diverse, and you have independent thinkers who have different lenses through which to view different problems. Many of those teams don't work. Some do, and they're successful, and they don't work. The ones that I've seen that haven't worked is usually because of fear, right? So people don't put their honest thoughts on the table. They're afraid of groupthink. They're afraid of what others will say.
Let's push you to the question, Prosper.
How have you removed that? How have you removed that? So we've talked about diversity. We've talked about having these teams together. Great. How have you got that panacea to actually get that team working to deliver something that's productive and that's value to customers? Second thing, bureaucracy within the organisation, large organisations. How do we transition across to this model of thinking, to this way of culture, to help our teams?
I forgot the question now. What was the first one? There was a lot there. And
There's
I did
a lot there.
I had half a glass
Succinct
of
question,
wine.
please, Prosper.
I didn't eat any of the food.
Diversity is wonderful. You need diverse thinking. How do you remove the fear so diverse people can come together and deliver something?
Right,
Okay.
got it.
Fear. I think with Formula E, what was helpful to the team was within the first 3 months we went bankrupt. And we went bankrupt. We didn't formally go bankrupt, but we ran out of money. We were going to go bankrupt. We needed a buyer. And having such a powerful, charismatic, successful man at the helm of that, showing that vulnerability of this is where we're at, guys. We've got to ring fence payroll. We've got to try and find investment. I think he allowed people to see that he's not perfect. We are scared as a group. However, we're all going to get on board together and we're going to fix this and we're going to win and we're going to keep fighting and we're going to keep going. And that level of transparency, so it wasn't in a closed room, it wasn't just for the execs, it was the whole team, which at that time was about 40 people, I think just removed that, that position where you can say, do you know what, I'm not having a good day, I'm not sure about the decision I'm about to take, I'm not sure about the impact, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I think that really, really helped, is just having that, it's okay to get it wrong, but we'll get it right in the end.
Question of leadership.
Absolutely.
Anything to add, Steph?
Yeah, actually this is a topic, I'm studying an MBA at the moment, which we've discussed quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, is how do you actually create the team where everyone does work together and the experiences in the room from my course mates was you can't have a leader at the top of a tree. He's got to be on the same level and surrounded by experts where he knows the limit of their knowledge and their expertise, but you know that you have that knowledge and they need you. And as long as you've got a role which is completely irrelevant, whether your ethnicity, your gender, your age, any of that kind of thing, you've got a role with a skill set and you can deliver that role and you know you're important, that's the best way of clearing the fear and the kind of any anxiety.
And lots of research is saying the hierarchy is dead for modern organisations that want to deliver inclusively. Do we have another question over here, please?
Yes. You mentioned about...
Can I have your name and your organisation?
Oh, yes, of course. Maria Andrews, Head of Major Gifts at the African Research Excellence Fund. And my question is really about your area of saying, you know, when you've got 10 items on your job description and 2 of them are like, oh yeah, I can do that, and the rest of it we sort of avoid. How, and you talked about, I think what was really interesting, Helen, was people with different types of skill sets. But when you look at a job description, you speak to recruitment people or even headhunters, they won't ask you those questions. How can we make it better and easier for someone to say, yeah, I'm this type of person, I'm a go-getter. No, I'm much more analytical. And to get those personality types and those skill sets on a staff team.
It's a good question. Do you know, within our organisation, in many of the roles to start with, we didn't have job descriptions. We kind of just thought we know we need somebody to fulfil this role. And I think that level of openness in terms of, you know, many of the jobs in sport, you can teach. You don't need an MBA, you don't need a degree to work in passing accreditation. What you need is to be good under pressure. What you need is to be organised. What you need is to be a team player. What you need is good customer service, which for me can come from any industry. You know, it can come from your industry. And I think it was really challenging, I think, for some of the people that came from Formula One into the sport. They were like, no, you've got to hire people from motorsport. And I was like, no, I bloody don't, because we don't want to be like Formula One. We want to be different. And that's a challenge in itself, because they're not used to it.
Was there inherent risk in that approach?
Maybe. I mean, I think something that I realised quite quickly is fundamentally we are a sport, we are a motorsport, and you need that intel, that experience. But seriously, to work in marketing, to work in finance, to work in HR, you know, in HR I just want somebody who's passionate about people. I don't care that you've come from HR in sport. The guy that's just come to work for me now has come from technology. So it was more about the type of person. I think for me, and I was having this conversation with a lady earlier, I've not used recruiters to build this team. I've actually got 15 roles open at the minute, and I'm doing them all on my own, which is a bit too much work, much to my husband's displeasure. Part of it's from a little bit of a control freak, but part of it is because I don't want that bias. I don't want that bias. And sometimes I'll get a CV, and it might not even be well put together, but I'll see something in it. It could even be the hobbies. And I'm just curious. It could be the picture. It could be a quote that they connect with. And I just think, I'm really interested to meet you for a cup of coffee. And my interviews, there's no competencies. Can you give me an example of? I'm not into all of that. I want to get to know who you are. What do you like doing? What do you like to work with? What do your mates think of you? And I think that has enabled people, not just from sports, not from, you know, we do have people that are very highly educated, but we have people straight from school. We've had people with no qualifications. We've had people come out of retirement that thought they could never get another job because of that level of openness to actually diversity works. It's the best team. I don't care what's on a job description. I haven't got one. I just know I need a great person to fulfill this job. Sorry, I'm waffling, but
No,
I feel quite strongly about it.
I think we've picked that up.
I just hate that.
I think we've picked that up.
I hate that traditional approach, because, you know, people can learn new skills, and for me, it's the attitude of the person.
It's very refreshing to. Would that be refreshing for you to hear, Steph?
I've got exactly the same approach to people I employ. As far as I'm concerned, skills can be taught, knowledge can be taught, but actually attitude and passion and drive, you can't teach that. Someone's got to bring that to you. And I mean, I've been phoned up before, asked to do a job which I have got none of the skills to do. I still got the job and then left it shortly after because it was rubbish. But but you don't actually need the qualifications. But kind of returning back to the question about, that's great because you're in a privileged position, as am I, that we have that kind of ability to choose. When you've got a more kind of hierarchical system that you have to comply with, something that some other people in construction have done is use like the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, and you get, you know, categorised one of 16 personalities, and actually it gives you a prediction of how people work in a team, what kind of, whether they're an analyst, whether they're a people person, and actually sometimes they found that quite useful to help build their team and realise where they've got a gap, and maybe they need to go and find someone with that skill set.
Very good. Mikhail, I'll come to you, and Akin, I'll come to you straight after. Mikhail.
Mick on the show, HSBC. You touched on this a second ago. My current experience that I'm going through now is I'm trying to insource a team from a third party internally. So I'm going out to the market, trying to hire about 40 roles concurrently. And what I've observed is that the CVs coming in are very narrow in terms of diversity, very narrow in a lot of ways. And it strikes me that there's something to be done around thinking about the recruitment side of the world and how we get how we actually get people presented to us. What's your thought? You did touch on it a second ago. What's your thoughts on that? I think it's pretty rubbish at the moment.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I worked out in Romania, I was working in technology, and there was a lot of competition for talent. And for me, it was about being different. Of course, you've got your corporate website and your corporate applications and your standard CVs, but you know, my challenge back to you is, what is HSBC doing to connect with people from different backgrounds? Because there could be an awful lot of people out there that you would want to employ that don't think they're good enough, that don't have this fear of rejection. And I think the big, you know, talking about, I spent most of my careers in corporate, spent 9 years in General Electric, Intercontinental, and I was definitely a square peg in that round hole, but I managed it. But it is that whole piece about daring to be different, and you see that, the effective campaigns where you're touching the hearts of the people. You know, why would somebody want to work for HSBC over Barclays? What is different about you? Is it this wonderful...
Do you want me to answer that?
I've got a couple of Barclays colleagues right in front of you who might slightly disagree. Yes.
But you know, if the people aren't coming to you, go to the people. You know, think about the types of people that you want. Think about the age groups. Think about the skill sets, the passions, what campaigns you're running. The social. If I look at some of the social media campaigns like Heineken have done for hiring, you know, it's innovational. It touches people in a different way. I think sometimes the traditional approach, honestly, it's just old hat for me. Like, go and get the people. Get the people you want.
Let's go up to the back there. Akin.
Hi, hello. My name's Akin, and I'm an architect at David Miller Architects. So I'm well into the construction industry. And my question is, it's a bit different, really. So there's a lot of work and a lot of great knowledge to be learned from what society's starting to demonize the middle-aged white man. I think they've done a lot of great stuff in society. And it's just unfortunate that now everyone's trying to promote diversity, i.e. more ethnicity, more women, more gender-neutral people, and forgetting that a lot of what we have as culture today was actually built by these guys. So how can we include them in the conversation to make sure that we're not actually going against our word of diversity and excluding them and blaming them for a lot of the problems? How do we include them in these conversations and get them to sort of maybe think a little bit different? Because at the end of the day, the world is going to become diverse with technology. It's fact. Mm-hmm. So rather than waiting to that point, how do we make sure that all of this knowledge amongst them remains in the industry rather than getting closed up into groups or right-wing groups and all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, and I do feel, having some very good friends in that age group category, they feel quite resentful and bitter about the shift. I think something I always remember when I was at GE and I got invited to the GE Women's Network. You know, isn't that great? You've been invited to this GE Women's Network, and I thought, no, it's bloody not. You know, I want to be a part of a mixed group. That for me we're segregating ourselves. What we're going to do, we're talk about how much we hate blokes, and that we're blaming the men for the situation we're in. And I honestly, I reluctantly went to that. And don't get me wrong. Sorry. I just, you know, the organisation I work with, it was founded by men. Most of the senior team are men. My close colleagues, friends, the guys that came to my wedding are men, and I really respect them. Absolutely respect them. I respect my boss. He is a phenomenal guy. It's not about excluding them for me. I don't want to be put in a group of women. I want to be put in an inclusive group, different ages, different generations, and embrace the past. And acknowledge, yes, we do need to change. We need to think about this differently. Because there are some people that are still racist, ageist. That's a reality. It's still happening. But you've got to face up to it. You've got to break down those barriers, and alienating people is not the way to do that.
Yeah, I think you said it we need to include them in the conversation. You know, you have a discussion about it. There's no point having a black guy and a woman and a Muslim and a Hindu and a whatever, but not having the white male. He's got to be in the forum. He's got to be sat there as a group together, all physically, so everyone can see that actually it's not just words. It's not us kind of saying, oh, it's your fault or whatever. It's got to be everyone together with a common vision. And it validates it as well, actually, having different opinions saying the same thing from different backgrounds.
My mentor is a 50-plus white male. You know, that he's my mentor. He's the person I wanted to mentor me. I didn't ask to be mentored by a woman. I wanted him. He's a phenomenal talent. He embraces diversity. He's got an amazing career. He's got things I don't have. He's my mentor.
And inclusion means inclusion.
Absolutely.
Please.
Hello, my name's Jess. I'm the Head of Business Programmes at the British Library, and what I wanted to say is there's been lots in the press at the minute along the lines of, in the UK as a society, we've become quite au fait with discussing issues of gender and age and ethnicity when it comes to diversity, but there is still something of a final frontier that we're a little bit reluctant to talk about, and that's the barrier of class, which is something that can have very negative outcomes when it comes to access to leadership in particular. It's not a question so much, but I'd just be really interested to get the panel's thoughts on the intersectionality of class with other kind of underrepresented characteristics.
And it's a great insight, and we should reflect upon this, that we've all known historically Britain has been, class has dominated everything. Many would say it's changing. Many would say it hasn't changed a jot. What's your view?
Yeah, it's something that's actually quite close to my heart. I'm a working class girl. My dad was a policeman. My mum was a housewife. And I was chatting to somebody earlier about, I was dealing with an exec search firm, and I got the tip off that he's never going to speak to you because you've got a northern accent. Can't hide it, sorry. It's stuck with me. And the whole piece about, you know, she didn't go to private school. I think being in a position where I hire people, I mean, you know, I remember when I took over the graduate programme at General Electric, and I'd been there for a few years, and it was 2 really good years. I loved it. I loved working with young people. And at the end of it, I told the graduates, which were all high achievers, that I didn't have a degree. And then literally were like, even like some of the people at GE were like, she hasn't got a degree, you know, what the bloody hell's happened here? How's this happened? How's she got through the net? And I corrected my education a bit later on. But for me, when I look at a CV, I didn't know about, top 10 university, Russell Group. I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't care. I liked great people. I liked passion. I liked commitment. And maybe somebody had a shit start in life. That doesn't mean there can't be an amazing leader of people. And actually having that tragedy or adversity in life often makes the people that are actually going to be the most passionate about bringing on people that haven't necessarily come from privilege. And within Formula E, for sure, there's some people that come from privileged backgrounds. You know, you see that a lot in sport, a lot of money. But something we've really, really tried to do, and we worked with Wandsworth Council on this, is actually getting some kids in from care, which was really tough, to be honest, because not everyone is understanding, is patient, cares. But I do, and I think if you can tap into those leaders that actually want to break down those barriers, and I don't care if you went to a polytechnic, a college, or you did hairdressing, if you're the best person for the job, Because let's be honest, most of us don't know what we're going to be good at. I never thought I'd end up doing HR. I wanted to play my trumpet when I was younger. That's all I wanted to do. I literally played in the brass bands in Yorkshire and thought that was my calling in life. But I think why, for me, I love what I do. I actually hate, saying I work in HR, because to be honest, I've worked with some bloody awful people in HR that I think, you don't like people, why are you doing this? But I really, really do. And I think when it's done well, and I've met some amazing HR leaders that really believe in it, it's just beautiful, and it has such an impact on an organisation, and that just never comes into it. It just never comes into it. But of course, it's a big issue. I still see it a lot.
Steph, you come from a slightly different place.
I didn't even know there was a class problem until a couple of weeks ago. Someone told me this society, the British society, is the most classified that I know of. And I thought, really? Oh, because I think part of the problem is a lot of people who've grown up in Britain, the UK, especially those who are from kind of, lower middle upwards, they didn't even realise there is a problem to talk about. I certainly feel like I fall in that bracket where it's only very, very recently that I've even become aware. Because I guess when you've got everything, you don't know what other people don't have, necessarily.
And how did that make you feel when you discovered that you might have privilege?
It makes me feel guilty in a lot of ways, because I've had a lot of opportunities to get into work. My dad got me my first job and my second job and my third job. What I did with those jobs...
Go, Dad.
What I did with those jobs was my doing, but I got the chance to try, and so many people don't have a chance to try it. And despite having, a lovely childhood, fantastic education, loads of opportunities, I still went through that teenage crisis where I thought the world was going to end. And I've got no excuse. What on earth have I got to moan about? Why am I? And whereas a lot of people who've actually had genuine issues, or they've got, struggle with opportunities, it makes me feel guilty that I'm making a fuss when there are other people in a much worse situation.
Ruth.
Hi, it's Ruth Lau, founder of Seller Group, corporate employee turned entrepreneur. My question is, what can we do to help people to identify what is unique, special and different in them, so that can help them to become more visible in the organizations?
Very good.
It's a good question. I think even if I connect back to my old corporate days when I was a fraud, I think something that I always did as a line manager when a team member of mine, a colleague of mine, wasn't performing, rather than go that old PDP and let's beat the person because they're not doing well and try and get them to do better, I think I've just always really seen what people could be good at. And not everyone has that attribute, and I understand that. And I think, maybe it's something intuitive in me, but I think, and I was having this conversation with my friend who's in the audience, but she's brilliant at hospitality. She comes into a different, she's going to hate me talking about her, but she's sensational in the event space. And sometimes it's a lack of confidence, and it's not getting that feedback from other people, a lack of self-belief, and I think from being 4 years of age, I had a lot of self-belief, a lot of self-confidence, probably shows.
But Helene, there's something about you recognising other attributes in people.
I just think, you work with different people in your team, and I've got different people in my HR team, and, Juan is a people person, he likes a bit of drama, he likes to get in the thick of the ER stuff, and then Imogen, who used to work for me, she loves numbers, she loves analysis, she actually doesn't want to listen to the cat fight that might be kicking off outside the ladies' toilet. She's not tuned that way. So for me, it's about having adaptability within your team to say, I'm not going to make Imogen do that because she's actually really good at that. And, she said to me off the bat, I never want to do recruitment, I hate it, don't make me do it. No, I'm not going to make you do it. Why would I do that? So this whole piece again about job descriptions, maybe there's stuff on the job description you just don't want to do. You might be good at it, but you don't want to do it.
But what's coming very clear, Helene, is that you're choosing the right person for the team, not necessarily the right person for the job.
Yeah, but that also is sometimes, I got rid of somebody recently brutal, I know, happens. She was in the wrong job, wrong career, wrong environment, and I think actually a good leader is a person that isn't just about saying you're no good for here, it doesn't fit with you, but actually saying, have you thought about what I see in you is, because you've got the experience. I've experienced different careers myself, different environments, and look at the career coaching. Sorry if I'm offending anyone in universities or schools, but it's like I got told there was a job in a butcher's or a florist. That was my career options leaving school at 16 with GCSEs. That was my career options. I mean, and honestly, I speak to young people now and I ask them about the advice they were given at university, and it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. Doing a certain degree doesn't put you just in a vertical. There's many things you could do, and for me, the more you get to know the personality, that's what tells you she's a corporate player, she's an entrepreneur, she'd be great in a charity, she'd be great in a turnaround. I don't really care about the fact she did a degree in geography at Leeds University. So for me, I think that...
You're putting a lot of onus on the organisation, the leadership, to look beyond the CV, beyond what you see immediately.
But it starts at school. I mean, you do all these GCSEs, French, German, you have to do all these different subjects, and then you feel so down on yourself because you're good at this and you're not good at that. But if you have a real ear for languages, I mean, that is a beautiful skill to have, but you feel crap about yourself because you just failed your maths GCSE. Who cares? Does it matter? Work with your languages, go there.
How do you feel?
I agree with a lot of what you said, as I seem to do the whole
well,
time. So it's fantastic.
That pays you well.
the other spin that I put from a personal perspective is there's a lot of things that we do, and there's a lot of things that you might enjoy doing, but there are actually very few things where you go, do you know what, this is the best, I love this is my thing. And I call them moments of joy. And I think the best way to find out you and your strengths and what you're good at and what you've got the most potential in is those things that feed you with joy. Actually, you're probably going to put your effort into it and become a leader in that. So kind of just actually taking the time to reflect back on what you're doing. And I managed to get my first job. I was an office junior. They put a phone on my desk and I was so terrible at answering the phone, they took it off my desk, and I was absolutely thrilled. I haven't had a phone on my desk since. But because you've got to recognise actually the things that you do. Like I really enjoy analytics and data, so I started dabbling in coding, and now I write management systems on the side for the companies I go and work at. Not because I've been trained in it in any way, but because I found out that I like numbers, I like data, I like things that actually work, and so it just kind of led on to it.
Very good. Let's take another question, please. Kimberly.
Hi there. Is it on?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Davis, and I help senior level directors make more money from their marketing. And I just wanted to say I love what you guys were saying before about you can teach knowledge, but you can't teach the right attitude. And that's something I have been preaching, girl, forever. And I have several friends right now who are looking for jobs, and they're frustrated because they're getting blocked because people can't see beyond their CV. And as people who are in positions who are on a daily basis looking at people's CVs, and as you were saying, you're finding limited CVs, I'm curious, and I think we all know people who are looking, job searching and stuff.
I've got 15 roles.
Yeah, okay, I will definitely have a chat with you. But what are the key things? Because if you don't have them sitting in front of you where you can read their personality, right away, what are you looking for on their CVs that's going to stand out to you that isn't just kind of like computer says no, it's literally like, oh, that's interesting about them, or that's going to make me want to sit down and meet with them?
That's a good question. I mean, for sure, it's easy to say the ones that don't have much detail on it, that they're in the bin. For me, if somebody really wants to represent themselves, they need to put effort in. So definitely look for effort. I'm not bothered about the picture. Sometimes that can skew the view. Do you know what I really love? A good cover letter. That's a bit old-fashioned, isn't it? But I think sometimes the underdog, generally, what tends to happen is they kind of know that not everything is on the CV that you potentially might want. But for me, the person that takes the effort to actually sell themselves and talk about, and it could even be something in their private lives that they've achieved that they're proud of, for me is interesting. And we had a situation where a girl sent in a box, a bit random, but she sent in a box, and she was a very creative girl. She was a young lady. She only had a very small amount of experience, and it was in marketing actually. And she was trying to remarket how she would position Formula E. And for me, some of it just didn't hit the right tones for who we are, but she doesn't know that. She's never worked with us. But for me, the effort itself, big tick. I mean, if somebody takes that time. Age, I don't care about. I definitely am looking for international, so having languages for me is a blessing, and you don't get many Brits with second languages that apply for Formula E, but we do have some, not just Yorkshire. I just think it's, do you know what, it's, a lot of people say don't put your, I saw this on LinkedIn the other day, don't put your hobbies on your CV, no one's interested, and I thought, that's absolute lies. I actually love to see what people do in their spare time, and if it just says, you know, cooking, reading, it's a little bit dry. But then you'll get people that say, you know, in my spare time, I went to work with the old people's home where my grandma was staying, and I put on a social event, or it's just about character, you know. And I think, for me, people that are affiliated with charities, but actually talk about the work they've done with charities, rather than I'm a supporter of, but the work that they've done, it just adds a little bit more of a dimension. And team sports, I always think anyone that's played in teams, I think you learn from a young age about the importance of each other is a good sign for me. Working in pubs, definitely a good one, because they've faced the worst of society, most likely, and you know, and difficult people, pissed people. Honestly, like, you know, a young person at university, when they've all got degrees, often I've found the person that's actually worked while they're at university, maybe because they had to, but dealing with members of the public, they've probably got a bit more of a balanced view on the world isn't all rosy and great.
So I've just passed them
Sorry,
the microphone to
rambling.
a good friend of mine, Lisa. Lisa is an expert headhunter who specialises in the HR.
She's now
Lisa,
taken me off the list.
I'm going to come to you in a moment. I just wanted a reflection in terms of dive. But before I do that, I was going to set up a closing remarks from the two of you. And I'd like to push you out again in the future. It's very clear from what both of you said, the sort of world you want to live in. What's the one or two changes you'd like to see happen that would move us further to the world that you've described so well and passionately tonight? I'll come back to you. But Lisa.
What is it that you would want a reflection on specifically?
So,
question. I was going to answer your question.
I think you're going to speak on behalf of Search Recruitment.
Right.
Who one might perceive from some of the comments made today maybe are lagging a little bit behind, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
I'm definitely not sure that I agree with them, because I think that you haven't chosen the right partners to find you the right people. That's the first thing. No. It's just I think you know, a bit of rigour there in terms of finding the right people. In response to your thinking about how do people put themselves out there when they're getting slammed on their CV, some people just don't understand what makes them special, and they need to expand on that. What is it that your USP is? And if you're a middle-aged white man, that takes a little bit more thinking, actually, because that's a tough one. And Ren and I have talked about this before. I hate discrimination in all its forms. Any shape or form, I don't like it. And I am uncomfortable at the moment as a search professional in the way that we are having to discriminate because of the drive for diversity, the drive to find candidates of ethnicity, which is fantastic, but that does leave a population disadvantaged. And I personally don't like that. And I don't know what the answer is, by the way, but it's a problem. I think the answer is the best person for the role, and sometimes you have to just work a little bit harder for it. So, and I worked in a pub as well, so thank you. I've had been through that refiner's fire too. I don't know if that's what you...
It is, but let me push a little bit, Lisa.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen in terms of the search industry in recent years? Are they moving with the times in terms of inclusion? Are they seeing the broadest list of candidates possible? Or are they slaves to the rhythm? They're going to deliver what they're told.
I think the opposite is true, actually, Renee, because organisations, whether they're big corporates or smaller private organisations, they understand that diversity is important, whether that's diversity of gender, ethnicity, of thinking, whatever it is. Diversity is important for organisations, whether it's done from the heart, whether it's done with reality, or whether it's done because their CSR, their statistics or their perceived quotas are important. But whatever it is, it's seen as a really important element. So I think the reverse is happening, that the search profession is being pushed to find more diversity candidates rather than balanced slate. So I don't think there are many searches that I or my colleagues do where the client doesn't say, we would really like a woman, please. There aren't many. So I actually think it's changing, but it's changing so fast, it's becoming discriminatory. So I still,
The pendulum's swinging one way and the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to balance that.
It's swung the other way fast. And, we'll always challenge it and say, best person for the job. And you and I know the person that we put in that was the best person for the job. And the client said, I really want a woman. And Renee introduced me to somebody, and I said, he's the best person for the job. He's not a woman, but he's going in, and he did get the job. And he did do very well. So, no, I think the search industry is being pushed to fight hard for diversity in all its forms, and that is succeeding in many cases, but to the detriment of middle-aged white men. Sorry.
Thank you. So, closing remarks. What are the changes you still would like to see that would move us towards the world that you would like to live in?
I think for me, and it goes back to you receiving the search, is it comes from the person instructing the search, is wouldn't it be great if the world's most respected CEOs got together and celebrated their successful teams and the diversity in those teams, so there was actually some authenticity in the push for diverse teams. I just still feel like it's fake, and it's about people representing percentages on a annual report, and I've been the person writing the bloody stuff on the annual report, and I feel so much happier when I'm writing about this great balanced team that have been brought together for the right reasons. And I think all of us feel that way. No one wants to feel like, as a woman, I don't want to feel like I got the job because I'm a woman. I would bloody hate that. I want to get the job because I was the best person for the job and they saw something in me. You see a lot of these awards, diversity awards, women in business awards, and it was so interesting for me seeing a young lady who was an engineer that worked on the Shard, and they said, it's amazing, and she said, no, it's not. Success for her was having no women in business awards anymore, just the best engineer in the world award. That's what she wanted to win. She didn't want to have that label. And kind of we all get why, but quotas, percentages, push with a lack of authenticity is not how to fix it. So think tanks, celebration of diversity. Formula E has a role in that. Alejandro has a role in that, in pushing. Why has it been so successful? Why? How did you do it? Because it is possible, and I appreciate turning the wheel of a big corporate organisation is slower. It's harder. I totally understand that. But if you don't make a start on that journey, then you're never going to get there.
Very good. Steph?
I think, for me, it's more kind of taking the responsibility on yourself, because I think we all have to be responsible for our careers and the people we interact with and the changes that we can make within a small circle, and actually just planting the idea in someone else. If you can tell one other person and really make them believe that actually diversity is worth talking about, is worth believing in, is worth actually doing something about. Because how many companies talk about it over and over again and nothing changes because people don't believe it. But one-to-one, you can make someone actually believe that and take that idea, and then they share it, and that's how it grows.
Fabulous. We've pushed them very hard indeed. They've answered every single question. Please join me in giving them the warmest round of applause. Helene, Steph, thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the great questions. Thank you for being a great audience. And I thank everyone who's streaming online with us. Please join us for a few closing drinks. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Safe journey home. Thank you.